Hello, everyone. Welcome to Intuitive Parenting with mamaB. I am still thinking about the live with Leah that we had last Sunday, and you can check it out under the live tab. It was a beautiful conversation, our first one with Leah, my good friend, an expert in childhood trauma. And we will be having these conversations every first Sunday of every month at 1 Eastern. So Leah, in introducing herself, talked about how we met and said she appreciated, one of the things that drew her to me is that she appreciated my willingness to introspect. And that is feedback that I hear more often than not. Young ones saying to me they appreciate my willingness to introspect. You know, at first I was dismissing it, maybe hearing and not hearing what they were saying. But over time, I was thinking, what is this? And of course, in reflection, I thought, well, I was once a child, so I think I understand what they mean. There is a longing in our children for us to introspect, just in the same way as we longed for our parents to have the capacity to introspect, because out of that, hopefully, comes the sorries and the apologies that we all long for from our caregivers. And so in thinking about today's conversation, in light of that feedback, I was reminded of a space, a conversation that I stumbled upon online on Clubhouse when I used to hold rooms there on Clubhouse. It's called rooms. And this room attracted me because of the title. The title was Surviving African and Caribbean Parents. Surviving African and Caribbean Parents. And of course, this is a few years ago, you know, right around the time where R. Kelly had that documentary talking about surviving R. Kelly. And so for me, surviving and parents just struck me as very sad. And so I walked into that, well, clicked into that room and was able to listen to young adults, my children, young adults, finding safety on social media and pouring their pain into that space about their experiences being raised by immigrant parents. And of course, because I'm one of them, I'm an immigrant parent too, I felt sad what I was hearing, but also privileged to have stumbled into this space. And I sat there for about an hour and a half. They kept inviting me up to the stage. Of course, they didn't know who I was. Of course, there was just a profile picture in their hands. And I wouldn't go up the stage. And they were talking about how their parents, some of them were talking about how their parents expect them not to absorb the society that they are steeped in, that their parents expect them to be children from back home. Some parents would say, well, I didn't bring you here to be an American. You're still an African. And on they talked about strict parents who will say to them, well, but don't tell me about, Lakeisha's friend, Lakeisha's mom, allowing her to do this and that. You are not. I'm not Lakeisha's mom. I'm your mom. But anyway, on and on, I was listening to them. And of course, I could relate to a lot of their parents because I am an immigrant mom. So an hour and a half later, I asked to get onto the stage. And I opened my mouth and said, I am your parents. My God. I did not expect the eruption that happened in that room, like a visceral reaction from those young adults. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, no, no. And I could hear someone in the back say, don't tell my grandmother. So for that moment, those young adults forgot that they were on a public platform. I was a stranger. There was no way I was one of their parents. But what struck me is how they had this visceral reaction. Their bodies reacted before their brains could engage as to where they were and who I was, a stranger on social media. And what came up for me was to defend their parents, was to start saying, well, I'm an immigrant mom too, and it's so difficult to raise kids in a foreign land and da-da-da-da-da. And man, I am grateful that something arrested me because I thought, nope, this is not that time. This is not the time for you to be defending these children. Your kids are out here finding safety on social media. The last thing that this moment requires is for you to actually be the very parents that they're talking about here. And so I decided instead to introspect and sit there in proxy, or is it in place of their parents? And I listened to them and I assured them that I heard them and I hear them. And I may have apologized, maybe not, but it was mostly important for me for them to feel that I was hearing them and that I felt privileged that I was there to hear them. And so by the end of what I said, they appreciated my presence and they said, well, we need to do more of these conversations. And I thought, you know what, maybe I will open a room and hopefully they can invite their elders, their parents, my peers, to be in that room that I will host, where we would all introspect, so our children know that we are hearing them. And so I started that room every Friday, I think to 7 p.m. Eastern. And I titled it the same title as the kids had, surviving African and Caribbean parents. We did that room for several months, I think, and we had to shelve it because my peers, whose room that was, because I was opening, because I thought if the kids have their own room surviving us, we should have our own room, talking about hearing them. But they didn't come. My peers didn't come. So we had to shelve that space. And that space has stayed with me because it is a sad thing that our children find solace online talking about surviving us. Surviving us. You know, I always say that it is one thing to be a parent, very difficult to be a parent. But this other layer of parenting in a country and a society you did not grow up in as a difficulty that people outside that community, that immigrant community, cannot grasp when you're parenting children, still trying to navigate and find your feet in a foreign land. It's doubly hard. But nonetheless, the impact of us not adjusting and expecting our children to pretend as if they don't live in this society, in this new society that we are still learning ourselves, that impact is deep. That impact is real. And so I just want to encourage my fellow immigrant parents that introspecting is a cry from our children. Our children long for us to introspect. Because, of course, out of that introspecting comes apologies that we all longed for when we were children, and they long for them now with us being their parents. So I just thought that it was a conversation that we could have. Leave your comments in the chat. If you are being raised in an immigrant home, or you are an immigrant parent, let's have a conversation. We may not have had that conversation online, on social audio, but here is a platform where we can have those conversations. Because I think we need each other to cross-pollinate and learn from our mistakes and lessons that we've learned along the way. Some of us now are on the other side of parenting. My son is a grown man. Yeah. And absolutely, there's a lot of things that I look back on that I could have done differently. And so for those of us who are now on the other side of parenting, I think it is our responsibility to drop some crumbs for those who came behind us and are in the thick of raising children in a foreign land. And I just want to say to you, it's possible to adjust, to listen to our children, to embrace that they are growing up in a society that we did not grow up in. And so they are faced with different ways of thinking. After all, we brought them here. That's right, parents. We brought them here. So this whole thing of, I brought you here so you could have a better life and better opportunities, does not mean that they have to now suffer our wrath because we don't want to adjust to a society that we are in. To look at different ways of doing things, and if it makes sense. I'm not saying we need to abandon everything that we know or everything, any values that we grew up understanding. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying allowing ourselves to grow with the exposure that coming to a foreign land provides us, that our children benefit from that. And this strictness of not wanting to stretch and grow and start thinking new thoughts puts us at a disadvantage with our kids, to where they end up bleeding online with other stranger children. And so that is my reflection today, is to encourage all of us to slow down in these difficult situations that we are in, raising children without our villages, and recognize that we're making it difficult for our children when we refuse to be touched by where we are. I mean, it's like a tea bag. It is unreasonable to expect that you could put a tea bag in hot water, in a cup of hot water, and have that tea bag not be affected by that water. So our children are steeped in these societies, and it is unreasonable to expect that they will not be affected by a society that they're steeped in, just like that tea bag. And so they need us to come alongside them to learn these societies and learn what we find in these societies, so we can both grow, because they're growing, we are growing too. We can expand and explore new things, and those that make sense and those that align with our values, we adopt, and those that don't, we discard. And that is that part of being willing to reflect and introspect. So yes, I'm going to end it here. Thank you for being here. Let's engage in the chat. And I'll see you next time on Sunday, next Sunday. All right. Thanks for stopping by the stoop. Bye-bye.